thank you everyone as you're logging in. I'm going to tell us just a couple things about the webinar. You're going to see at the very bottom of your screen a chat area that you can send questions to us directly. You're also going to see a questions and answers, a Q&A area as well that you can also ask questions. We will be answering them throughout the webinar. So please feel free to ask your questions in either area. We're just going to wait a minute longer as everybody's logging in. I see a few more people clicking the link and entering in the last bits of information to get logged in. Again, as you're logging in, there are two areas that you can ask questions. We have a chat area, and we also have a Q&A area. You're going to see that on your Zoom dashboard. Feel free to ask any questions as you're going along, or as we're going along through this webinar and this information. We will be answering all of your questions and all of the information throughout the webinar and at the end as well. Okay, so a little housekeeping things. I know a couple of people who've already been logged in have heard this. So we will be answering questions throughout the webinar. So there are two areas that you can ask questions. There's a Q&A section, and there's also a chat area that you can ask questions at. So please feel free to send any questions or any tidbits of information you'd like us to cover in those areas. We are going to be getting started here. I am really excited to be chatting today, or having Sarah chat with us today, about optimizing your social media profiles. One of the things I absolutely love about this webinar is that it helps practices, or it helps us in all areas of our social media path. So if you're just getting started in social media, if you're just getting started in Facebook and Instagram and other social media platforms, this is a fabulous webinar to be watching. Or if you've been in social media for a little while, you've been active on it for a while, this is also a really fabulous webinar to be joining as well, to make sure that you are on your A game. Again, just a couple little spots that you can ask questions as we're going along. We have a Q&A section at the bottom, and we also have a chat area. Please feel free to send any questions. We're going to be answering them as we go. I am really excited to introduce Sarah. Sarah is one of our social media experts here at Marketing for ECPs at Pod Marketing, and she is going to be talking about on how to optimize your social media profiles. Sarah, take it away.
Amazing. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. As Kristen said, my name is Sarah. I'm one of the social media strategists here with Marketing for ECPs. So I get the really fun job of helping our clients with their social media campaigns and just making sure that we're staying on top of everything that changes with the world of social media. I absolutely love social media. I've worked in the industry for 5 years now. And I think specifically in the eye care industry, there's just so much opportunity for us to use social media to help reach our patients and our potential patients. So yeah, thank you guys so much for joining, and I'm really excited to talk to you a little more about it. So I wanted to start off by going over a couple little fast facts with you guys. These are some of my favorite facts. Whenever people ask me about social media, I love pulling these numbers because it's pretty staggering when you think of like the bigger picture and how much impact social media has in our day-to-day lives. So as of right now, 76% of North Americans use at least one social media platform. So the most popular ones are going to be Facebook and Instagram. But if you think of like 3/4 of the people who live in North America, that's an astounding amount of people who are active on social media. And of those people spend an average of 2.5 hours a day on social media. So like, I just think of like, by the time I get home from my work day, my commute, taking care of my dog, spending time with friends, everything like that, the fact that people work their whole days and then still spend 2.5 hours of time on social media, I think that just speaks so much to the impact that it has on our day-to-day lives. Also, 62.3% of Instagram users say that they use Instagram to follow or research brands that they want to be doing business with. And then along with that, 66% of Facebook users visit a local business page at least once a week. So people aren't just using social media to connect with their friends or their long distance relatives or things like that. People are using social media more and more every day to actually decide what brands they're going to do business with and to search out those opportunities to build relationships with those brands. So it's super important to have that social media presence, and it's becoming more and more important every day as we see these numbers just continue to grow. So today we're going to talk specifically about profile optimization for social media. So social media profile optimization, we consider that to be the strategic use of social media sites to help manage and enhance your message, to help generate leads, promote brand awareness, and reach wider audiences. Most importantly, those last two, promoting the brand awareness and connecting with those audiences, is such an important part of social media and something that social media has the ability to affect so much. So the profile optimization side of it is making sure that you have that really strong profile and foundation to help welcome those people in and build that connection with them. Profile optimization can include, a laundry list of things. It might involve incorporating some keyword strategies, making sure you've got that right branding, planning out your posts, copywriting, making sure that you're staying in that voice that you want to be connecting with your followers with, engaging strategically with other people on social media. There's a whole bunch of different kind of skills and tools that we use that all come into profile optimization to making sure that we have those really strong profiles. So simply put, profile optimization just means that you're using your social media platforms to your best advantage, taking advantage of all of the tools and services that those platforms offer to help you leverage your online presence and then hopefully stand out to those potential patients. So I talked, I guess, a little bit about why profile optimization is important. But profile optimization is what really helps your profile stand out in search results and the algorithm. If you don't have one of those optimized profiles, it can be a lot harder for people to organically find you on social media. So part of profile optimization is making sure that we're leveraging all of those search engine functions that Facebook and Instagram have to help your profile stand out and help more people find you. And then it also really helps strengthen your presence and your credibility online. People view platforms, those optimized profiles, as being very trustworthy. It's like having a really quality website. Having that beautiful website is going to make you appear more trustworthy to your patients and people who are finding you for the first time. It's the exact same thing with your social media profiles. By making sure that you have that really strong optimized profile, it conveys that you're a trustworthy, credible brand that people can trust to do business with. So if we kind of look at the successful social media presence as a pyramid, at the very top of the pyramid, our end goal with social media is always to have inspired audiences. So these are people who feel empowered to take their eye care decisions into their own hands. They feel inspired to, make those decisions that are going to be best for them and their family, feeling really motivated and empowered because they've been provided the educational tools and resources to make the right decisions and to advocate for themselves and their families. Those are our end goals, specifically within the eye care industry. That's what we want to see out of our social media presence. And that's how we know that we're doing a good job with social media, is when we start seeing those audiences. And we can't have those audiences without having meaningful engagement with them. So this is kind of where the social side of social media comes into play. We don't want a one-way communication channel with potential patients. If people want to just learn about you without feeling like they have that connection to you, your website is always a great place to do that. The social media profiles are for having that more open communication with your potential patients and your current patients, and making people feel like they're really communicating with your brand in, a natural, organic style. And then in order to have meaningful engagement, we have to have valuable content for people to feel like they want to engage with. So these are going to be your day-to-day posts that are going out on social media, maybe telling people what you're doing in the practice, promos, educating people, giving some fun eye care tips or things like that. the valuable content is what's going to inspire people to have that meaningful communication with you guys. And then at the very bottom of our pyramid, the foundation of it all is going to be your optimized profiles. So the optimized profile provides that beautiful educational place to host all of your valuable content on, so that without having to look at every single individual post that you're posting on social media, people can look at your profiles just like they look at your website and learn what it is about you that makes you special and why they should want to do business with you guys. So it just kind of lays the foundation for everything else that you're going to do in social media going forward. So we're going to talk today about both Instagram and Facebook. And I want to start with Instagram because this is like one of the fastest growing and one of the biggest social media platforms that people use, particularly as younger people start to, become adults and millennials. This is the platform that those sorts of people are engaging the most on. So there's a lot of things that can go into Instagram optimization, but I've selected the 4 that I think are going to be the most important with the biggest impact on your Instagram presence. So that's going to be having an optimized username, name, and bio, having some engaging story highlights, having some branded pinned posts, and then some cohesive and consistent posting. So starting with the username, name, and bio on Instagram, these are the parts of the Instagram profile that are going to be the first things that people see when they visit your profile. So your username is going to be that unique identifier. No other account on Instagram is going to have the same username as you. So this is kind of your unique handle for people to find you with. And then your page name is ideally going to be the proper name of what or who the page is representing. So this can be absolutely anything. And that's just kind of people's intro into what the page is about and what you guys do. And then your Instagram bio is your short and sweet little introduction to tell viewers about what it is that your business does, maybe what makes you different from other practices in your area, and just that really short, sweet little introduction to you as a practice. Now, these 3 things are really important, mainly because these are going to be the functions that affect your searchability on Facebook. So I mentioned wanting to make the most out of our search engine features. Your username and your name especially are going to be how Instagram's search engine finds you and suggests you to people who might be looking. So you want to make sure that you're making the most of this area so that people who maybe haven't heard of your business are able to find you on Instagram. And also maybe people who didn't know that you were on Instagram can have an easier time discovering your page as well. So then how do we make the most of these 3 functions? So first and foremost, if you're running a business page, the complete name of your business absolutely needs to be somewhere in either your page name or your username. Ideally, you want it to be in both if it works out, but because usernames are a little picky, because you can't have the same username as any other page, and there are millions of Instagram accounts out there in the world already, you might have to do a little bit of compromising on the username, but at the very least, your page name should absolutely have the full name of your business, just like it would be listed on Google. Again, this is how people are going to search for you, just like they would type your business name into Google if they were looking for your website. They're going to type that same business name into Instagram if they're looking for you on there. And then an added part to that is that if your business name doesn't contain your location or your industry in it, I would recommend adding those to your page name as well. You've got a lot of space in your page name to include some important keywords, because once again, this is how people are searching for you on Instagram. So with my example here for Your Friendly Optometrist, the business name of Your Friendly Optometrist doesn't tell anyone that we're in Calgary. And if people aren't searching directly for the word optometrist, they might not know that we're an eye clinic. So with this page name here, adding Calgary Eye Clinic to the end of my title, I'm now able to reach more people who might be looking specifically in the Calgary area, who might be searching for the word eye care or eye clinic instead of the word optometrist, and just targeting those broader audiences that are maybe potentially looking or might not even know that they're looking for what I'm able to offer them. Now, moving into the bio side of it, again, your bio is just your short and sweet intro into what your business does and what it is that makes you guys unique. So you want to, talk to people about the things that make you special and why they should be choosing to come to you over the other optometry pages that they may have found in their searches on social media. So ideally, because we have such a short amount of space to do the Instagram bio in, it only lets you type 150 characters. The best way to structure it is going to be in point form with 3 to 5 key points, depending on how much typing you're doing. This just makes it, first of all, it cuts down on the character limit, so you're able to include more of that valuable information than if you're writing things in full, complete sentences. You're probably only going to get to fit 1 or 2 of them in there. Whereas this way, with our bullet points, we're able to include those 3 key pieces of information. And then it also makes it easier for people to read. When they're looking at social media profiles on their phone, people aren't typically looking to do a whole bunch of reading like they would if they were looking for you online. So keeping it in those bullet points there, it's short and sweet, it's easy for people to consume really quickly, and then hopefully inspire them to continue looking at the rest of what's on your page, like your story highlights, your posts, everything else. And then if you have room at the end of your bio, it's always nice to include a little call to action to encourage people to take those next steps. If you're really interested in getting people to go to your website, maybe a link to learn more about us, maybe book your appointment now, or it could even just be like follow our Instagram page to stay up to date with what we're doing. There's a lot of different opportunities there for your call to action, depending on what it is that you're hoping that people do once they find you on Instagram. So the next part of Instagram that I think is really, really important sits below the bio, below your name and username, and that's your story highlights. So both Instagram and Facebook have an option for story posts to go out on them. And a story is different from the other kind of posts that you would be putting out on either Instagram or Facebook, because your stories are designed to only show for the 24-hour period. So if people are looking on Instagram, the first thing you see when you open the Instagram app is going to be a bunch of icons of other people's profile pictures at the top before you start scrolling through any posts in your feed or anything like that. And you can go through those and see the story highlights or the stories that people are sharing just in their day-to-day life. These are designed to be really easy to consume. People are typically only going to look at them for a couple seconds, and then they disappear after that 24-hour period. But by making the most of our story highlights, it gives us an opportunity to take those stories that have been posted for the 24-hour period and then put them somewhere where they can exist long-term and just kind of sit there indefinitely at the top of your page. So they're going to be quickly viewable. Again, people are typically only going to look at them for a couple seconds versus your actual Instagram posts that they're going to have to click on and read. So we can really do a lot with this little area to provide a lot of information in a very short, easily digestible manner for people who are learning more about your business. Stories can be built up of graphics, photos, videos. They can be posts that you've reposted from some of the other accounts that may have tagged you, maybe a patient who came in and bought a new pair of glasses that they love. All of that forms of content can be posted to stories and then repurposed for your story highlights for people to be able to view whenever they want. And story highlights are really important, again, because they're that super digestible, easy to look at, easy to flip through really quickly format. So people can learn a lot about you. If we make the most of these, people can learn everything that they need to know about your practice without having to do a lot of reading or digging or scrolling or anything like that. And then hopefully be inspired to book that appointment with you or follow along or whatever it is that you're hoping to get out of this Instagram platform. So to make the most out of the story highlights, ideally you want to have 3 to 5 topics that you want patients to know about and to be able to learn about quickly. So my examples here are meet the team, services. Maybe if you have multiple locations, you want to talk about the different locations and things like that. But 3 to 5 topics, ideally, that will sit at the top of your page there and that can be broken down into some really key points. Once you have those topics picked, you just want to assign a name to each of them. You can use up to 10 characters in the name of a story highlight. So just those short and sweet 1 or 2 word names that tell people what it is that they're going to see when they click on the story highlight. And then when you create a story highlight, Instagram will automatically make that little circle picture on the highlight, whatever the first post in the story highlights is. Now, the problem with that can be depending on what the story is about. Sometimes when it crops it down into that really small circle, it doesn't tell viewers anything about what they're about to look at within that highlight. So the way that we work around that is by choosing some simple little icons that give a little bit of info on what people might be looking at in those areas without actually having to, play that guessing game or anything like that. So there are a lot of templates out there on the internet. The website that I highly, highly recommend is always Canva. They're a graphic design website. And there are a lot of icons available in there where you can just kind of put the icon on a picture. You can change the color typically. So you want to match it to your brand colors so that it's that really easy introduction to your brand. And then you can just download those as photos and upload them. And that's what will sit as the story highlight cover. So people can, instead of having to look at all of the little cropped in bits of the pictures, they can just look at this nice row of story highlights, as you can see on the screen here. And then once you have your story highlights created, you ideally want to pull from your previously posted stories, or you want to create some new content that you're going to post to your stories so that you can add those into your highlights. So maybe in the past, you had this really great Instagram story feature about one of your services that you're offering or all of your staff members or something like that. You can absolutely repurpose those. All you have to do is add them into the story highlight. Or if you don't feel like the content that you have in your past stories is going to be that effective, fast-hitting content that you're looking for, then you can just create some new content, take some pictures. You can easily add text to photos in Instagram's story feature and post them to your stories with the intention of them eventually going into the story highlight so people can view them indefinitely. And once again, if you're creating that new content, you just have to post it to the Instagram stories as a regular Instagram story. And then once it's up there, then you'll have the option of adding it to the story highlights as well. So for example, here, this is what my services Instagram story highlight would look like. If people decide to click in and learn about the services that your friendly optometrist has to offer, they can super quickly look through these images here. They would just flash up one at a time on their phone or computer, and super easy to read. So people know that these are the services that we offer, and hopefully there's something in here that's what they're looking for. Now, the next part of Instagram that I think is super important, sitting right below the story highlights, is going to be the pinned posts feature. So pinned posts are just regular posts that you will have put up on Instagram, but they're pinned to the very top of your grid to sit there indefinitely. So the way that Instagram works is all of the graphics that you post sit in that grid on your profile side by side. And as you post more, everything's getting bumped down. So by pinning posts to the top, we can make sure that they're always going to be the first things that people see, and they're going to be the first posts that people look at without having to worry about them getting bumped by other content that we're posting. So we can really make the most of these and make sure that we're keeping the most important information that you have right there at the top of your page. And then the other side of that is because Instagram is such a graphic-based social media platform, you can't post anything to Instagram without having some sort of graphic feature to it. We can really make the most of those graphics or photos to draw people in and catch people's eye. This is the really visual element to your Instagram profile. So if we can make the most of that and introduce people to the visual side of your brand, and draw them in, and hopefully that will inspire them to want to click on those posts and learn more. So to make the most of the Instagram pinned posts, the first thing you want to do is select the 3 topics that you want those posts to be about. So this should be evergreen information. So things that aren't, only going to be true for this week or this month. Ideally, you want these to be things that aren't going to change about your business. So maybe it's an introduction to the team or the lead optometrist or optician. Maybe it's when just talking briefly about your services, or if you specialize in something, a post talking about that. And then I always think that one that's really important must have is going to be contact info. So one of those 3 posts just short and sweet. Here's how to book with us. Here's the hours that we're open. Maybe here's where to find us if you're, tucked in the back somewhere and a little bit trickier for people to find as they're driving down the street. Just that really clear, concise information so that hopefully by that point, people will have looked at your Instagram bio, they'll have looked at your story highlights. And then by the time they get to your posts there, they know what they need to know to book the appointment. And then they've got that post there telling them exactly how to do it. And then once you have those 3 topics, you just want to create 3 Instagram posts, just as you would any other posts that talk about these topics. So you'll write normal captions just as you would for anything else, any information included that you think is important for people to know. And then because we're pinning these at the top of the profile, I really strongly recommend making sure that there's really strong branding elements that tie back into your digital brand. So this is your chance to draw people in, to have that eye-catching side that makes them want to learn more about what it is that you do. So you want to incorporate, your branding elements, your brand colors, maybe some photos of the practice or optometrists or, the team, anything like that. This is your chance to add those visual aspects that are really going to draw people in and make them want to engage. So for your friendly optometrist here, this is my example. As you can see, they all have that really strong branding that ties back into the Your Friendly Optometrist brand. I've got the information that's important for people to know there, while still making it really obvious that what we do is eye care and optometry. I got some little prompts at the bottom, including the website, and they just cohesively sit together really nicely at the top of that grid so that no matter what I post below them, these are always going to stand out to people and make them want to read and engage with. And then the 4th piece of Instagram that I think is really important to have is cohesive content. So once again, Instagram sits in that grid. Everything that you post goes into your grid side by side by side with those graphic features showing, just like you can see on the screen here. So making sure that all of your posting is really consistent and cohesive is really important, because having that disjointed, muddled kind of grid where, maybe the photos don't match up or you're using different colors or things like that, that can get confusing for viewers, and it doesn't give them a really clear idea of what it is and who you guys are. So making sure that all of your posts are really well tied together, using the same kind of brand kit for everything, is really important for creating that cohesive and, once again, that trustworthy presence. So just like having the beautiful website tells people that, you're a brand to trust, having that cohesive Instagram grid can go a really long way in, affirming in people's minds that you're a trustworthy business that they should be coming to visit. So a successful grid is always going to be created with that consistent branding to have the most impact that you can and introduce people to the brand and what it is that you guys do. And consistent and cohesive posting is really important because this is a really strong brand awareness piece for you. This is, once again, it's introducing people to everything that the brand is about. And it's also going to encourage people to interact. So we talked about the meaningful engagement that ideally we want to work towards. Having eye-catching graphic pieces on Instagram is going to be your best way to build that meaningful engagement and inspire people to start engaging with you. So to create cohesive content, the first thing you're going to want to do is make sure that you have a digital brand kit. So if you have a logo, you're probably already halfway to having your digital brand kit ready without even really realizing it. But the key components of a digital brand kit are going to be your logos, maybe the different variations of your logo, your key colors, your branding colors, and then maybe the fonts that match in with your logo and that represent your brand. And then once you have that strong idea of your digital brand kit, the easiest thing to do is going to be finding a set of templates that work for you to match all your content. We've got really amazing templates created for our eye care clients. There's lots of other templates available online as well. Once again, I'm going to refer you to Canva because I think that's just the most amazing user-friendly website to be creating any graphic content for your business. And with your brand kit, you can basically just go into those templates, change the colors to match what you're looking for, change the fonts to match, Drag and drop some of your own pictures in there, or, stock photo imagery from maybe the eyewear companies that you sell, or photos that represent what it is that you guys are trying to talk about. And then with that, then you can kind of trust that everything you're creating is going to stay consistent. It's going to have those same branding elements, and put together a really nice matching grid like the one you can see on the screen here. So with those 4 things, by kind of enacting those 4 steps, ideally you should come up with a checklist that looks like this. So you're going to have that optimized account name that's got maybe the keywords for that searchability function. You're going to have a user-friendly username. Ideally, that's going to be your business name, but whatever it is, it definitely has to be easy to read. You're going to have that keyword enhanced bio, again, for the searchability, but also as your little short and sweet introduction to what it is that you guys do. You're going to have some relevant story highlights for people to be able to click through and learn more about the business easily. You're going to have your pinned posts sitting at the top of your Instagram grid, providing those 3 key pieces of information, the 3 topics that you think are most important for people to know about you guys. And then below those pinned posts, everything else is going to be cohesive and consistent so that you have a really nice looking grid that introduces people to the brand. And with all of those steps, you can take a page that looks a little bit something like this. This was our original Your Friendly Optometrist page. As you can see, not all the photos match. It's not necessarily eye-catching or wanting to draw you in for the right reasons. And the bio at the top doesn't really tell us anything about what the business does. So you can take that, and with the optimization steps, you can turn it into something that looks a little bit more like this, where we've got the really great name that's introducing you to the fact that we're an optometrist, we're in Calgary, we do eye care. We've got the bio there focusing on those key pieces that we think are really important for people to know about us. I've got the story highlights below that. So if people want to click through and learn more about Your Friendly Optometrist really quickly, they can go through my different locations, services, team members, and some frequently asked questions. I've got my pinned posts there that are going to be the first kind of visual aspect that's going to draw people in, hopefully make them want to look at those 3 posts and read what they're about before they start scrolling through the rest of the feed. And then below that, everything else is going to match and really tie back in to that whole brand that I've created. So I'm going to pause here and ask if anyone has any questions specifically about the Instagram side of things before we go into Facebook.
We do have some questions. Okay, so some of our questions will relate both to Instagram and Facebook, but I think it's a really great time to ask them now because we can always dive in deeper to them later as well. So some questions about Canva. If you could dive in just a little bit deeper about Canva as far as capabilities, the ease of creating the correct sizes of things, and cost of it as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I love Canva. I could sing Canva's praises like forever and ever. It is hands down the most user-friendly graphic design website, software, whatever you want to call it, that exists right now. It is literally designed so that, without having any graphic design experience whatsoever, you would be able to go in and create some content. Canva has a free membership, so you create an account for free. And then they also have a lot of premium features that you can unlock. I believe right now it's about $20 a month for a membership. That being said, we also have a premium Canva subscription as well, where you can join as a member of our 4 ECPs team. And then not only do you have access to premium Canva, you also have access to all of our templates that we've created specifically for eye care. And once again, those are super easy to customize to your brand. But overall, Canva is super user-friendly. They will guide you in exactly what size documents you need to be creating for the different assets that you want to make. If you want to make an Instagram post, they know exactly what size that needs to be. There's a lot of free templates available as well that you can modify to, be more eye care related or to tell people more about your practice. And really the best way to get comfortable with it is to just play around with it a little bit. But there is really endless opportunities with creating anything that you could possibly need as a visual aspect of social media can be done on there, no problem.
both on your desktop and your mobile devices. Wow, love it. Okay, I'm going to ask a couple more questions. When it does, since we're talking about Canva and content creation, if somebody's getting in there to recreate their brand and they have done some rebranding, or maybe they're just finally getting onto social media and doing it right or anything like that, would you suggest that they go backwards and delete any of their old posts or keep them and move forward?
Oh, that's a good question. I think, first of all, you got to decide how much time and effort you want to put into curating that profile. The nice thing about social media is that those older posts are going to be bumped down eventually as you post more new content. I wouldn't say that it's necessary to be going back and deleting all of your old content if it doesn't match the new brand. As long as everything going forward is that really consistent new brand, eventually you're going to reach a point where no one's going to be scrolling back that far anyways. That being said, if you really want to have that really curated, aesthetic, perfectly branded feed, what I would recommend is maybe taking the captions off of your old posts and just modifying whatever the visual aspect of them is. Maybe it's putting a new filter on a photo that you posted or just changing the colors of the graphic that was with it. And you can always repurpose those captions, delete that content, and then just repost it as part of your new posting cycle that you're going to be creating.
Awesome. Okay, do you mind repeating how you can unlock the marketing for ECPs Canva templates, or how to join the marketing for ECPs Canva membership?
Yes. I mean, honestly, I think you might be the best one to answer that.
Contact us. No, really, in all honesty, you can join it at any time. It is an amazing feature that Marketing for ECPs, Sarah and her team on the social media side of things has created for everybody on the in eye care. You will absolutely love it. Everybody who is asking that personally, I'll make sure that you get direct contact information, but I know Sarah is going to be adding contact information at the end of this as well. It is something that you can always even just try out to see if you like it. So it's risk-free as well. It's makes it really awesome. Okay, next question that we have is, how often do you or should you respond to social media to stay engaged with your members? You know, that not everybody wants to be online all day long. They don't want to feel like they have to be there at every second. So what would you say is a good rule of thumb with that?
I mean, ideally, the rule of thumb across all industries on social media is ideally a 24-hour window of communication. That being said, specifically in eye care, I know everyone is always crazy busy. So, you know, I'd say 48 hours is still a really reasonable amount of time. And I would recommend, just for ease, because like Kristen mentioned, I know no one wants to feel glued to Instagram all day, and most people just don't have the capability to do that when you're, you know, in the practice, seeing patients and everything like that. So what I would recommend is maybe just setting aside 5 to 10 minutes every couple days to go in, check the notifications. If there's something that needs to be replied to, that's great. If you want to take it to the next step, you could spend 15 minutes going through your newsfeed on that account and maybe engaging with some other businesses in your area. But yeah, I wouldn't say that you need to worry about that more than 2 to 3 times a week, just given the nature of how busy the industry is.
Awesome. And there's just a couple more tiny questions I'm going to answer real quick. One of them is about locations. I wanted to make sure that it was clear that when you're posting just organically on your social media, by adding the location in your profile, like what Sarah is teaching us, that's what's really going to help your posts in the algorithm show up in the area that you're in. It is different than setting your location when you're doing social media marketing. That's a little different. Those organic posts versus marketing to a specific area, that's where you could really target a specific area. So that's really awesome. Another thing about those old posts that Sarah was talking about, I know we've got a lot of questions about those as well. Another thing is don't ever be ashamed also of where you came from, what you posted then, and then developing on who you are now is still a fun thing to see and do. So don't be afraid to keep those posts, and you don't have to restart anything new. Another thing was about your names, keeping it fun versus also keeping the business name. When your business name is not available, that's when you're able to add in that fun that we're talking about, where you can change those capital letters or add in a lowercase or add in a dot or anything like that. And that's the last question for now. So if you have any more to add on the making your username fun, please feel free to advance on that. Otherwise, we'll go to the next section. Please keep those questions coming in, because we will stop again after this next area to answer more of them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If there's anything that you remember between now and the time we talk about the Facebook stuff, just drop it in the chat and we'll cover that at the end as well. But I want to move into the Facebook side of things now, because Facebook and Instagram are tied really closely together. They're both owned by Meta, which is what Facebook used to be known as, and then they bought Instagram and created this corporation that's the umbrella for both of those. So they integrate really well together, and there's a lot of things that we can take advantage of doing on one platform that work for both. So on the Facebook side of things, once again, I've picked the 4 things that I think are going to be most important and kind of give you the most bang for your buck when it comes to having that really strong Facebook profile. These are going to be making sure that you have the proper call to action and page category on your page, having a comprehensive information section on the page, making sure that you've got a branded cover photo for Facebook. This is something that's exclusive to Facebook that you wouldn't find on Instagram. And then having some educational featured posts, which are going to be very similar to the pinned posts on Instagram. So talking about the call to action and your category, your call to action button on your Facebook page is going to be the bright blue button that sits right at the top of the page when people come to look at you. So you can see here, we've got the blue contact us button on our 4ECP's Facebook page. So this is people's like really obvious prompt. When they come to look at our page, we want them to contact us. And then our page category is more for the searchability side of things. So your page category is going to mark which industry the business is in, and this is going to help on Facebook's search engine function. Again, when people are looking for, eye care in their area or just businesses in their area that they want to be working with, the page category helps Facebook determine whether or not your page should be shown to them. So these are both really important, because your call to action button is the best lead generation tool that Facebook has to offer. So if you want to see those direct conversions and things like that, making sure that you have a call to action button and that it's the right call to action button is super important, because this is what's guiding people to take those steps. And then your page category, once again, that's the searchability side of things. That's how Facebook's algorithm knows who they should be showing your page to, and hopefully is going to start showing it to more people once Facebook is able to figure out what it is that your page is about. So to make the most of your call to action button, first and foremost, you want to know what successful lead generation looks like for you. So if you're looking to see patients directly walking through the door, maybe the best call to action button is going to be like book now. If you want them to visit your website and learn more about you, maybe phone the office and ask more questions, things like that. There are call to action buttons for absolutely every option out there. So you can see I've included a few examples of them here. We've got like contact us, which would send them to our website. We've got message, which is probably not going to be the most popular one within eye care, just because that's going to be sending people to Facebook messages, and that would involve having to monitor that inbox really closely. So another option might be email us. There's call now, there's book now, there's like 20 different call to action buttons that Facebook has to offer. So whatever successful lead generation looks like to you, there is a button that's available to make sure that you're guiding people in that right step. And then for your searchability side of things, you want your page category to be as specific as possible. So optometrist is a page category on Facebook, optician is a page category on Facebook. Really narrowing down those key areas and making sure that it's really clear exactly what it is that you guys do is just going to help with the searchability side of things. So instead of, choosing health and wellness or services, or I know like sunglasses and eyewear store is one that I often see that I am trying to recommend that people don't use as often, because these are really broad categories that makes it hard to differentiate between you and the kiosk in the mall that sells sunglasses. Whereas having a page that's like optometrist, optician, anything like that, that's really narrowed in on what it is that you guys do, is only going to help more people and the right people find you. And then the next part of Facebook that's important is the information section. So we want to make sure that all of the information available on Facebook is filled in properly. So Facebook has a little bit more info available on it than Instagram does. And they've divided their information section into an intro and then a details about you section. So your intro, just like your Instagram bio, is your short and sweet place to introduce your page. The intro feature on Facebook does have a smaller character limit than the Instagram bio. So realistically, you might only be able to fit one sentence in here, but you just want it to be a nice, complete sentence telling people about what it is that you guys do as the little opener intro. And then hopefully once people read that, then they'll click into the additional information and read the details about you section. And the details about you section has a 10,000 character limit on it. So you can write a full essay in here if you want to, and include absolutely all the information that you want people to know about your practice in this section. And these are both really important. They work really well hand in hand, because your intro is just that little short and sweet introduction to the page and what it is that you guys do. And then once people read that little one-liner, then they can click into the details about you and really learn absolutely everything. The details about you section is your place to provide all of the information that anyone could possibly want to know. So to make the most out of these two sections, first and foremost, your intro section. Different than Instagram, we want this section to be one complete sentence or two complete sentences if you have the character limit for it, but we want it to be in full sentences, not the bullet points like we're doing on Instagram. Because it's such a short little section, just having that one well-rounded sentence is a better structure for the way that Facebook is laid out. Also, people who are on Facebook are typically trying to do a little bit more reading. So we're not necessarily looking to break it down into those really clear bullet points for people to look at, because if people are engaging on Facebook, they're usually willing to, start doing a little more reading, digging a little bit deeper into what it is that you guys do. So for our intro here, you can see just one short and sweet line. We've said using the latest technologies to provide comprehensive eye care to Calgarians since 1995. So it's really important typically to talk about what makes you guys unique, and also location in this intro, because the actual location of your page sits a little bit lower down in your info section. It's always nice to just mention, at least what city you're in, or town. And yeah, just that short and sweet little introduction before people start scrolling through the rest of your Facebook page. And then behind that is your additional information section, or the details about you section. Once again, this is your place to write complete paragraphs about your business. So anything that doesn't fit into Facebook's templated information areas where you can incorporate information, this is your area to talk about those. Maybe you want to talk about your new technologies or the technologies that you guys are using that others in your area aren't offering. Maybe there's a really amazing story behind how your practice got started that you want to be able to share with people. Or maybe there's some frequently asked questions that you get on the phone 3 times a week and that you want to have written out somewhere for people to easily be able to read. The world is your oyster with this section. Once again, 10,000 character limit. There's a lot you can talk about in there. And you can just kind of freely write whatever you think the important facts are for people to learn about your business. And then the next part of Facebook that's super important is the biggest graphic element, or the biggest graphic feature that Facebook has to offer, and that's your cover photo. So your cover photo is the big landscape photo that sits right at the top of your Facebook page. Every page or profile on Facebook has a cover photo. And that's kind of their they're a graphic element that's really important because not every Facebook post needs to contain a graphic element with it. And because it's laid out differently, where it's kind of text first, graphic second, when you scroll through Facebook posts, the cover photo is your place to make the most of those really strong graphic elements that are going to introduce people to your business. It also typically provides a visual representation of what can be found on the page. So because it's such a massive space that it takes up, you want to make the most of it and really introduce people to what they can find when they continue scrolling down the page. The cover photo is super important because, first of all, it's the first thing that people are looking at when they look at your page, whether they want to or not. The second they click on your page, that's going to be what greets them before they scroll or dig deeper or anything like that. It also takes up such a massive section of the page. As you can see on a computer screen here, this isn't zoomed in or anything. The cover photo takes up more than half of what Google is showing right now in that window. So for maximum impact, we got to make the most of that space. That's a lot of real estate to just be leaving empty or not planning intentionally to make the most of. So with your cover photo, easiest thing to do, once again, is going to be going to find one of those templates. So Canva, once again, can't say enough good things about it. There's a lot of templates available on there, as well as other areas of the internet. And you want to create a 16:9 ratio graphic, landscape graphic. That's the size that fits on the Facebook profile. And yeah, you want to incorporate whatever you think is important to introduce people to your brand. So you probably want to include some text elements in there. Once again, because it's such a massive piece of real estate, that's like renting out a bus bench and then not putting any words on the bench and just putting a picture. So we want to make sure that we're including some strategic text elements that are going to tell people about what they're going to find on the page, what it is that you guys do, how to contact you, those sorts of important pieces of information. This is your place to advertise those. And then just like the content that we were posting for Instagram, we want to make sure that our cover photo matches our strong branding elements. So you could see on the previous page with our 4 ECPs cover photo, it matches the same kind of branding elements as my presentation here does, so that we're making sure that we're staying really cohesive. The cover photo on the right down here, you can see matches the same color scheme as my Your Friendly Optometrist brand kit for Instagram did. Whatever that digital brand kit that you've created is, you want to make sure that your cover photo really ties back to it, just so you're staying consistent across the different platforms there. And then the next part of Facebook that's important is your featured posts. So these are the exact same as your Instagram pinned posts. They're going to be posts that sit right at the top of the page, first things people see when they look on your Facebook profile. So the way Facebook posts are laid out is typically people will have to scroll past one post and another to look through your content. It's not like Instagram, where all the graphics are going to be side by side for people to click on and learn more about. But the featured posts allow us to put our most important topics side by side right at the very top of the page. So instead of having to scroll through one post after another to find this content, they'll all be sitting side by side and people will be able to swipe through sideways to look at that information. We've got, the sneak peek at what the caption of the post is. There's that text element to it, and then also the graphic element as well. And they sit up here indefinitely, just like your pinned posts do. So once again, you want to make the most of these with things like services, about the practice, promotions, things like that you really want people to be knowing about. And featured posts are really important for the same reason that the pinned posts were. These are going to be the first posts that people look at. These are going to be the first things that people are clicking on and reading when they're looking at the content that you're posting. So super easy spot to put the most important information about you and what it is that you guys do. So to make the most of the featured posts, same thing as the pinned posts, we want to first start by picking what topics we think are the most important for people to know about. So if you have your Instagram pinned posts already created, it's really easy to just repurpose them for your Facebook featured posts if you think that those are going to line up with what you want people to know about on Facebook. Chances are it's going to be very similar topics that you want to talk about on both platforms, because those are going to be the topics that are the most important things about your business. So if you have your Instagram pin posts created, all you've got to do is just repost those to Facebook. But if not, then you just select some topics and build them just as you would any other Facebook posts. Now, the thing about featured posts that's going to be a little bit different than the pinned posts on Instagram is that they don't necessarily sit side by side perfectly in line. So this means that you have a little bit more flexibility in how you design your graphic element of them or what pictures you're choosing to incorporate. It can be a little bit more forgiving because they are still structured as very clear individual posts. You don't necessarily need those 3 matching, perfectly lined up kind of banner effect graphics like you want to have on Instagram to stand out. And then once you're done with the Facebook side of things, you should have a checklist that looks something like this, where we have the appropriate call to action button. We're listed under the most specific category that is in line with what your business does. You want the complete intro section with that full sentence right there at the top of the page. You want a complete details about you section that goes a little bit more in depth into your story or what it is that you guys do. You want the beautiful eye-catching cover photo that's taking up half of the screen when people first come and click on your account. That's really going to draw people in and motivate them to continue looking at the rest of your profile. And then you want some educational featured posts sitting right there at the top so that the most important information doesn't get bumped down into the rest of your Facebook feed like the rest of the posts will eventually. And with those changes, our starting page looked a little something like this. Nothing too special about it. There's not a lot drawing you into it. I actually had to scroll halfway down the screen to make sure that the cover photo wasn't taking up the entire piece of it so that you could see the other information here. But it's not a super strong intro into what it is that the Friendly Optometrist does. And then with all of our optimizations, we turned it into something that looks like this, where we've got the name of the business, we've got a phone number right there at the top on the cover photo so that people can contact us. We have a call to action button right there. We've got the intro and the page category on the left-hand side, and then our featured posts over there on the right-hand side so that people can learn about exactly what it is that we do without having to go scrolling or digging for any information. So I'm going to pause there and ask if there's any questions on the Facebook side of things.
Okay, sorry about that. Took me just a couple seconds to get to my mute button. We do have a couple questions. Thank you so much. Okay, and I'm loving how our questions are transforming. This is so awesome. I've answered a lot of our questions. We have 26 questions pending right now. So I've answered a lot of them and will continue to answer them directly, but I'm going to do a few of these live because I thought they were awesome and we had multiple people ask them. I'd like us to talk about Reels just a little bit and why Reels are really important for the practice, and does it matter that Reels aren't always perfectly color templated to, the branding and things like that?
Yeah. So I mean, Reels are like the hot topic these days first it was Instagram, now Facebook is using them too, and they're just becoming more and more popular. So if you're not super familiar with them, Reels are Instagram and Facebook's new video feature. So if you've heard of TikTok, it's another social media platform where you're doing 60-second videos that people can scroll through. Instagram Reels and Facebook Reels are now that exact same feature, but on the Meta platforms. So I think now they do up to 90-second videos on Instagram. And they're designed to be kind of short and sweet, engaging. Typically, they're going to be entertaining and trendy because there's so many trends going around Instagram all the time with the Reels side of things. But they are becoming more and more important when it comes to building your engagement and that presence online. The really nice thing that Reels have the ability to do that your regular Instagram and Facebook posts might not necessarily have is the ability to reach new audiences. So when someone is scrolling through their regular Instagram feed or their Facebook feed, they're only looking at people who they're following or they're friends with. Whereas when they go into their Reels feed, which is kind of a separate area of both Instagram and Facebook, they're seeing whatever content the algorithm thinks that they're going to want to see. So they're being shown things from, quite possibly people all over the world, but people in different industries, different areas, companies that they may not have heard of before. The world is your oyster when it comes to what you're going to see in your Reels side of things. So as a business, you can use that to your advantage in a lot of really cool ways to help reach people who may not have heard of you before. Reaching those people in your area who aren't actively looking for an optometrist or an optician or a new eye care specialist, but maybe learning, and, just building that brand awareness with people who haven't come in to see you. So really making the most of Reels would be ideally posting 1 to 2 videos a week from within the practice, or, content that you're able to create without actually filming videos of people's faces. But they are a really great tool to use. I really, really recommend using them. While I know that they're also a lot of work to try and create these videos, it's a lot harder than just snapping a picture. I will also say that we, as part of our content library and our services, do create a lot of eye care related Reels. So if you want to be making the most of Reels, but are like, oh my God, that's way too daunting of a task to even consider trying to film these videos, we do have options for that as well. There's a lot of other tools online that you can use to create some videos. But yes, despite how much work it is, I will always recommend at least trying to make the most of the Reels feature. In terms of it matching the rest of your grid, ideally in a perfect world, what you would want to be doing is putting a cover on the reel. So you can create graphics that are specifically designed to be reel covers. Or what you can do is you can kind of select what point in the video is going to be the cover photo for that video. So when you're posting the reel, you just want to make sure that you're posting with the cover photo being a part of the video that makes a little bit of sense, making sure that it's not someone's face zoomed up really close, or like a big piece of text that you're not going to be able to read when it's cropped into the square that it shows on the Instagram grid. And just kind of strategically picking what part of the video is going to look best for that. And then, yeah, you don't need to stress too much about making sure that all the other elements of it perfectly match everything else that you're posting. As long as it's kind of a clear intro to what the video is about, then that's all you've got to be doing for the cover photo side of it.
Awesome. For the topics, for the categories, are we able to have more than one page of categories?
For your page category, you're only able to select one,
Okay.
which is why I recommend getting as specific as possible. Sometimes people kind of think that the reverse is true, where like, oh, I want to be selecting the broadest category I can if I can only select one. But that kind of just muddles when Facebook's running its search engine features. It kind of muddles what your page is actually about, and it will actually start showing it to less people because it doesn't know for sure whether it's what people are looking for. So by making sure that you're really narrowing in that page category, that's going to be your best bet to help people find you when they're just searching online.
Awesome. Okay, so I have just a tip that somebody gave us, a couple more questions that I'm going to answer quickly. One question that I'm going to pass back to you, and then we're going to go to the next section. Somebody wanted to make sure we gave a tip that always using photos of you and your staff members or people in your community really does help to increase the amount of people who are looking at your posts, along with the amount of people who are following you, which was another question is, how do I get people to follow my pages? And that is one of the things is use yourselves and use your community, post things about your community, ask your patients to follow you, do fun contests, do a giveaway, let them know that you're going to be posting the things that are going on in the office on your social media. That's really a great way to get followers. Another question was, should you be following your social media? Absolutely. You really should be following your own social media, just like you would hope that your staff members are following your social media. If you're not following your social media, why would you expect your patients to be following it, right? Things like that. Another thing, the last question that we're going to answer now, we're going to go to the next section here, and then we'll make sure we answer any other questions at the end as well. The last question is about hashtags, which I love hashtags. On top of making sure your social media profile is correct to get to make sure that your foundation is there to put you into the algorithm. This is the other way to make sure your posts are in the algorithm. Make sure you're using hashtags. And the rule of thumb with hashtags is we don't want to use a hashtag that has so many posts to it that our post will never be seen. We want to use hashtags that are trending, so that our posts get put into that trending algorithm as well. And we want to use hashtags that's relevant to what we're talking about, relevant to our area, and relevant to our practice. Feel free to jump in more on the hashtags and then jump into the next section as well. Thank you so much, Sarah. This is so amazing.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I 100% agree with what Kristen's saying about the hashtags. If you're using like the most viral hashtags out there, you're going to be like one drop of water in the ocean. Whereas if you're using the really targeted hashtags, those are going to be the ones that are not only reaching people, but reaching the right people for you. It's not beneficial when you're an in-person practice to be reaching people on the other side of the world who are never going to have the opportunity to come see you. So it's not necessarily about quantity, but about quality when it comes to people viewing your posts and the hashtags that we're using. I always love going to, those community social media pages and seeing what hashtags they're using in your area. For example, like we're based out of Calgary, Alberta here. So Calgary Life is a massive Instagram page here that, posts things that are happening in the community, knowing what hashtags they're using. And because typically pages like that are going to be starting trending hashtags that you can kind of jump onto the momentum of. Targeting hashtags that are specific demographics, like mom groups in your area, things like that, families, all of those hashtags that are kind of narrowed down, not necessarily to be the tiny hashtags. If you're looking at a hashtag and it has less than 100 posts on it, maybe that's not the one for you to be using. But I'd say rule of thumb, selecting hashtags that are between 1,000 and 100,000 posts are really great places for you to be jumping in and starting to use those hashtags. Okay. So I'm just going to jump in with a quick conclusion here. I know we're reaching the end of our hour, but just kind of to summarize what we talked about. The whole point of optimizing your profiles is to create a meaningful presence on social media, and we want to be effectively representing your brand and its values. So social media doesn't serve the same purpose as your website does. With social media, we want to be making sure that we're being effective at making people feel like they have that open communication with us. Having that optimized profile is what's going to make us seem trustworthy and make people want to be starting to engage with our accounts. And the small steps that we talked about here, once again, I kind of tried to go for the most bang for your buck when it comes to optimizing your profiles. These are small steps that you can do that are going to have a really big impact when it comes to introducing people to your brand effectively, making sure that we have that really effective brand awareness in play, reaching new potential patients and people who may not have been looking for you but are going to be in 6 months. And reaching those new audiences that are in your area that once again are the right people to be bringing in, and then just boosting your online presence and that trustworthy aspect. Going back to the stats I pulled at the beginning, 2/3 of people are looking for businesses online that they want to be engaging and doing business with. They're looking specifically on Facebook and Instagram for these businesses. So making sure that we have that really trustworthy, credible looking presence on our social media profiles is really, really important to encouraging those people to be coming in. And just to summarize the importance of the optimized profiles, as Kristen just mentioned too, this is your foundation. The optimized profile is the foundation for everything else that we're going to be doing. If you don't have that foundation, then it can be really, really hard to be reaching the meaningful engagement and the inspired audiences. It's hard to, be asking for that buy-in from your followers with that engagement and everything like that if you don't have the really solid presence that's conveying to people that you can be trusted and that you are fun to be engaging with and inspiring people to want to engage with you. So of course, the end goal is going to be inspired audiences and people who care a lot about their eye health. But the first step we got to take to get there is making sure that we have the really strong foundation with these optimized profiles. So we also have a free e-guide for everyone who joined today. This is just kind of summarizing what we've talked about and going a little bit more in depth into how you can make the most of these features. It will also be emailed to you after this webinar is complete, but I'll leave the QR code up here for a second so you can download it right now if you'd like. And I'm just going to ask one more time if anyone has any other questions that they'd like to see answered.
We have one more questions. Yes, everybody get your phones out and download this QR code. You're going to love the checklist. Along with a lot of people are asking where to get a copy of this webinar. Go to our resources, Marketing for ECPs. You'll see a resource section. You'll see free social media posts downloading there to get a little bit of a sampler on what we can help do for you as well. But you're also going to see a section on webinars. Won't be uploaded right away, but probably tomorrow or later on this week, you'll be able to see that webinar uploaded. The last question that we have to answer, and I feel like I know the answer to it, but I want to hear what you say to it also, is should we be posting the same thing on Instagram as we do on Facebook, vice versa? Can those posts go interchangeably?
Oh my gosh, absolutely, 100% yes. First of all, because Facebook and Instagram are both owned by Meta, you can actually schedule a post on one and have it go to both super, super easily. And I mean, you're going through the effort of making this content, of getting the photos, the graphics, writing the captions, spread that as far as you can. Like the content is already put together for one of your platforms, post it across all of them. Absolutely. You never know who you're going to reach who might be on one platform or following you on one platform that isn't going to be on the other.
And never be scared to reuse your content. If you posted something 3 months ago, it is still relevant now, and you can remind people how relevant it is again. Throwback Thursdays are always a great thing to do that, or anything, remind people on a Tuesday that it's a good thing to take care of their dry eyes. So always remember, if you do have a post that went well, reuse it as often as you want to. There's never too long of a period of time that you can reuse a post. Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Thank you guys so much for joining us. If you do have any other questions, please feel free to contact us directly. My name is Kristen. You can email me, Kristen at 4ecps.com, or Sarah as well. Feel free to contact her directly also. Otherwise, we are here for a couple more moments for any questions that are coming in. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for joining and listening. I know we ran a little bit over time. I hope everyone learned a little bit today. And yeah, if anyone else has any questions, please let us know.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.